Good evening and welcome to Real Talk, where every Sunday night we offer insight, education, and resources to in home caregivers and those affected in their world. These are the children, the parents, the extended family, and everyone who loves them. Our goal is to offer real life solutions and learning through discussing real issues and offering real solutions. Tonight, I'm very excited to welcome our guest, Peter Van Ryder from Estate Management Solutions. Peter's firsthand knowledge of the private service industry makes him a reliable, trustworthy resource for candidates and clients alike. He has an exceptional ability to manage multiple projects with just the right touch in taking charge of challenging situations to manage and deliver superior results without causing undue worry to clients, which is a talent and a skill for sure. Peter also has a particular expertise in building effective procedures and policies that are documented within comprehensive household manuals to ensure the continuity of services at every property, regardless of its location or distance from the main residence. And tonight we're going to dig into this with Peter, and we're going to talk about one aspect of the state of education in private service, because this has been something that's gone on for quite a while. There's been a lot of changes and a lot of disruption in the last few years. So I'm excited to talk to Peter about this and bring you some great information. But first, Peter, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Tanya. It's great to be here. I was so excited when you first reached out to me. I have to say, I really admire what you and the people that you train do. The newborn care specialist and nanny positions are far beyond my grasp. So kudos to you and the people you train.
Yeah, it's a fun industry, and I say all the time that I honestly I like little people bigger than, better than the big ones a lot of days. And most people who do this and love it feel the same way. Um, so I was excited to talk to you when I first found out about what it is that you do.
Mhm.
Obviously, I've understood estate management and all the things that go with it for many years working in the industry. And that's great. But a lot of times people think, well, how do I get into this? And so that's what we're going to kind of talk about tonight is education around private service. But before we really dig into that, can you help our audience get to know you kind of personally? I read some professional stuff about you, but tell them a little bit about Peter. How did you get here? What sparked your interest in private service? Tell us a little bit.
So, like most people in our industry these days, they really had no idea that this industry existed. It is such a secluded and reclusive industry that the general public, I'm always get shocked that when I say what I do for a living, and the curiosity is rampant. So when I started, I had the same ignorance about everything in this industry. And I found out about it through my spouse at the time, who was a professionally trained chef, and she knew about the industry and wanted to be in it. So she started cultivating that interest within me from early days. I was in the hotels for many years, so to have that hospitality background. When that just kind of seemed to go stagnant, I got into computers and networking and worked for a major corporation in their IT support and network support department. And then I combined those skill sets and all that information that I learned throughout those years into a private service package. So with my spouse at the time and her culinary abilities, my hospitality background, my technology background just kind of made this really good fit as a domestic couple. And once I got into the industry and got a few years into it, I really started discovering I have a passion for this. This is something I really, really, really enjoy doing. And it's just led me to a almost 20-year career in private service. And that passion has yet to wane, and I just love seeing people in class and networking with people and seeing their eyes light up when they find out that they're not alone out there in this private service.
Mm.
So a little bit about me. I come from that hospitality. I got that tech background, and that is what set the stage for what you see today.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit, and then I want to ask you some questions around it, but
Mhm.
tell us a little bit about estate management solutions.
So I founded Estate Management Solutions in 2010, and the life switch in 2010 was I moved to Dallas. I was leaving New York and wanted to be closer to family again, which I have a ton of family here in Texas. So I decided Dallas was my launching pad. I got here and I noticed a few things. Is one, not a whole lot of placement agencies here in Texas. It is an untapped market. So I decided I've got to do something about that. I also noticed a big hole in education in private service, and I wanted to do something about that. And I wasn't quite sure where to go and how to accomplish that. So I started networking and I started speaking with like minded professionals, and that helped develop estate management solutions. So we do placements for luxury homes in Texas and nationwide. We have our training program called the Essentials of Estate Management. I'm sorry, the Essentials of Household and Estate Management, where is a weekend class for private service professionals. And we also do in-home training for housekeepers and silver service here in Texas or internationally if they care to reach that far. But it is a luxury consulting firm, and one of the biggest joys that I get is meeting fellow professionals and helping along in their career.
Yeah, fantastic. And I know that having been in this industry for many years, there is really a great need for kind of a standardized, here are the things that you do when you work in
Mhm.
this. And there's not a lot of options out there, certainly not in the Texas area as far as that goes. And so that prompted you essentially to write a class, correct?
That is correct. What I saw is we have two major educational types in our industry. We have a few people here in North America that are doing lengthy classes, and you either need to take a month off of work or you need to spend $10,000 on these classes. And the issue that I have with that is that for those of us who can afford the time to go to these classes, they not necessarily can afford the money, because if you can afford the time, you're most likely unemployed or in transition between jobs, which means that money is very sacred at that point in time. But if you have the money, it usually means you're employed. And I don't know a single principal out there that is willing to part with their private service professional for a month while they go off and get trained. So I had this desire to create something that was affordable and accessible to the private service professional so that they could easily get continuing education without having to fork over a lot of time or fork over a lot of cash.
Mhm. And so that kind of led to your creating this. So
Mhm.
tell me, kind of, if I'm looking at this and I think, wow, this sounds fascinating. I think I might want to do this, and I have zero experience. Is that who you're targeting for your audience, or are you targeting more people who are already working in private service and just want to refine their skill set?
So when I first started developing the class, it really ended up being geared towards the new private service professional, the people that have just maybe spent the last 5 years in the industry, kind of floundering around, not quite sure who to ask what. And a lot of times, the education isn't about teaching you everything you need to know, but giving you the ability to search for the right answer and know the at least 10% to give you that verbiage so you can discover the answers on your own. So it was designed to give that new professional the ability to access other professionals and some basic information about the industry. What it's evolved into is I have regularly in classes, I have both new people that are just coming into the industry. I have highly experienced with 20 plus years of education or industry experience. I have people that are coming out of the military as enlisted aides that come to the class to learn how to work in these private homes. And the beginner, of course, walks away with the most because they walk away with additional tools, templates, as well as a new network for them to call upon. I feel that the experienced private service professional that comes to my class not only walks away with a new network, but sometimes, of course, the templates are always valuable, but at its core, sometimes we just need to be reminded that we are doing the right thing. That yes, it is accurate. I am following the right path. Our industry is so isolating. I can walk down a major street here in Dallas with mansions just lining the street, and I have no idea who works in those homes, even if I work next door to them.
Mhm.
So our industry is so isolating that sometimes it's just nice to get together with a group of people that know what your struggles are and walk away with a few more tools and a few more friends to be able to bounce ideas off of.
Mhm. Yeah, it definitely is an aspect of working in private service that you need to keep your mouth shut. And
Yes.
so that contributes to that isolation for sure. So I have a question kind of related to that. If somebody were to come to you and they came from kind of my background, in that I started initially as a nanny and then went into full household management, are they going to learn new things if they say, I think maybe I want to go bigger than that? Are they going to learn tools? They're going to have takeaways that will help them do that.
Yes, I believe they will. These are all topics that I was desperate to know about when I first started in the industry. And even 10 years later, when I thought I was well established, and then I'm starting to discover this information and realize I wasn't following the right path, or these tools would have helped me guide me down that road a little bit further and much, much smoother.
Mhm.
So I do believe that there are key values that come out of this course. Part of it is how to establish communication methods with your principal, how to set the boundaries. From there, we talk about accounting, basic accounting procedures, some human resources tips and tricks, management and leadership within the home. And then we start talking, day two, we start really diving into the organization of the home and breaking that home up into bite-sized pieces. So when you walk into a 30,000 square foot home, you're not in this, oh my gosh, shell shock of where do I begin? I don't know, what, oh, it's so much. Start with this piece. I like to, a lot of people I work with will hear me say, if you try to drink the ocean, you're going to drown. But if you take one cup at a time, you will get there eventually. So pace yourself and don't become overwhelmed with the task that you have in front of you. Just take a bite, chew on it, swallow, and move on to the next bite.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes sense. We say something similar. My husband does mostly, which is, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Yes,
So
exactly.
same thing. And obviously, when I was in estate management or household management, I didn't go into full estate management. I went a different direction and I went back to the babies. And that's where I've stayed for the last 20 some years, because that's where my passion is. But I found my passion. You found your passion, right? It's
I have.
important when we're in private service to do that and to really do that. So, what about this? What is it about this that is the passion for you? What is it that brings you that joy in doing this every day?
I think there's a psychological component to it. There is I just love getting on the phone with either principals or candidates. And towards the end of the conversation, not only do you have this personal connection with them now, but you also are starting to hear the relief in their voice that there is a light at the end of the tunnel and it's not an oncoming train.
Mhm.
So there is that psychological effect. And I think that all of us have. in this industry is this overwhelming desire to be of service and to please others. So, and that is very, very accurate for myself. I get the warm fuzzies by hearing that sigh of relief, or that you can tell that they're being assured that they're not alone and that there is a positive future when they feel like they're drowning.
Hmm. Yeah, I totally relate. Excuse me. I say a lot of times my special gift with parents is providing them a sense of I can do this. And it's the similar feeling, even if the phrasing or wording might be a little different. It's still that same feeling, that relief of
Mhm.
I can do this, and somebody believes in me, and somebody's supporting me. So it's definitely there. Um, just one thought that crossed my mind as we were talking about this, for our audience that doesn't know, tell them what a principal is.
A principal, and that's CRPAL at
Mhm.
the end of it, is Mr. and Mrs. or any of your charges in the house. Our principals are the owners of the home and the people that we work for. We refer to them as principals, and it's a great name because you mentioned this at the beginning, and it is confidentiality and discretion is one of the cornerstones of our industry. So, in order to help avoid the use of names, I say Mr., Mrs., or principal. I never ever discuss the actual names of clients or people I work for. And I advise my candidates to do the same, even those who are coming to networking events. Be
Mhm.
quiet. It is nobody's business about who you work for, but we do want to know what your struggles are.
Mhm. I used to make a joke about it, but the reality is true is that you're in a room with other professionals when nobody says, "Who do you work for?"
Yes, yes, exactly. And we have networking events here in Dallas, and I say the same thing. I I don't want to know who you work for. I don't
Mm-mm.
care who you work for. It's not important to this conversation. What is
Nope.
important to this conversation is how can we help each other out to make
Mhm.
our professional lives better.
Right. I agree. And I think, I mean, maybe you feel the same way. I'm not sure, but I feel like there's a certain category of people who work in the industry who really are absolutely cut out to work for these particular types of clients. I have people who say to me, "What do you mean you take care of newborns? Don't these parents want to take care of their own children?" And I say, "You know what? It's not my role to decide how much time they do or do not spend."
Mhm.
And it's all about the fact that at the end of the day, it's a baby and a parent, and they deserve my support without judgment. And I think that carries over to almost all aspects of private service as well, don't you?
I agree. John Keats said a long time ago, ours is not to reason why, ours is but to do or die. Now,
Hmm.
not let's not go to that extent, but you know what? Everybody, especially with what you do, I never had the pleasure of having my own kids, but I have the wonderful opportunity to help raise a young man, and I can't even imagine. This is something that doesn't come with a user manual. So to have somebody like your resources or one of the professionals that you train there, just the relief that must give any mother is will help set them and their children up for success. So I don't, we all have our reasonings behind what we do. I do not question those reasonings. I am just there to support their decisions.
Hmm. Absolutely. I feel the same way. So, in looking at this and what you've created and
Mhm.
what's going on in our industry, what are your hopes for the future of the private service profession? Where do you see things going, or where would you like things to go?
I've got a lot of hopes for our industry. Our industry will never go away. It's one of those industries that will always, always, always be here as long as we remain dynamic and fluid to the current state of the high net worth or the ultra high net worth within our radars. I would love to see, and this is a struggle within our industry because there are so many different opinions about how things should happen and how homes should be run. I would love to see an association once again that is for the betterment of the industry, but not financially dependent on the professionals. And this is very, very, very difficult to do. It's been tried by some really major powerhouses of our industry and some good people, but it has failed over and over and over. And I think that has to do with the with a lack of continuity within our own industry. Too many different ideas of how things should operate. But I think that if we could at least get together on LinkedIn or other social devices and start sharing resources, not stories on open social media, but resources and being there for each other, I think that's going to put us far beyond where we could have ever hoped. I
Mhm.
also hope eventually it would be really nice to see an actual college course that puts people on a direction to the private service, so that way we can start and get them into the industry with a very well established education that is dynamic enough to help them support whatever role that is that they want to see.
Mhm. Yeah, no, those are some great ideas. And certainly I would love to see a professional association. I miss being able to get together at conferences and network with other people that really get it,
Yeah,
understand.
exactly. It's
Because,
nice to be around people who don't ask that question. Who do you work for?
uh-huh,
What kind of car do they drive? Is
right.
their house big? It's all stuff that, if I'm out in
Mhm,
public and somebody asks me, it's like, sorry, no, and I'm usually, oh, sorry, nobody you know. Oh, and it's not that big. And if they keep pushing, I'm sorry, but I'm bound by a non-disclosure agreement. I can't discuss this
mhm,
before they talk. But it's exhausting. And being able to
mhm.
get together with a group of professionals that know not to ask that question and pick and choose what kind of education that you want during that period, I think that's hugely valuable.
I agree. Absolutely. And yeah, you're right. It is exhausting, particularly because people can have a tendency sometimes to make you feel guilty about not sharing the information. And
Absolutely.
yeah, so I totally get it. So there's been some really fascinating stuff here. Is there anything else that you feel is important you'd like to share with our audience before we wrap up for today?
There are, you know, this industry is an amazing industry, but it is born of self-sacrifice. So there is a reason why people in our industry garner the pay that we get, and it is for our loyalty, of course. It is for our discretion, but it is also for our self-sacrifice. In order to be in this industry, you have to know that you cannot you have to know that you're going to be missing holidays. You're going to be missing, your vacation days are going to get messed up here and there. So there's a lot of self-sacrifice in this industry, but at the same time, it is incredibly rewarding. I think this is one of the few industries that I know of that somebody with a high school GED can earn six figures and
Mhm,
can be a true profession or a professional and really follow their passion.
mhm,
But there are educational resources out there for you to follow. So if you know what it is that you want to do with your career, there are some wonderful one-off, two-off educations that you can find out and contact me and ask me about, and we can get you pointed in the right direction to start on a much smoother road down your career path. Just like you start people out for a smooth life in the best possible way, I try to do the same for professionals in our industry.
yeah, absolutely. And we're going to put the information in the news feed, so or in the feed for the
Excellent.
video, so that people can actually reach out and get a hold of you if they're interested in learning more. Absolutely. But thank you so much for joining us. It really has been an eye-opening experience, I think, for myself and probably for a lot of people who are watching this. And it's fun to learn more about what it is that you do. because we can't always talk about a lot of it. So people getting an opportunity to hear more is fantastic. Thank you for sharing and for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, Tanya. It was great to be able to connect with you, and this has been an absolute blast. I really hope that I hear from every one of your students, and I hope that I also have the ability to recommend you and your students to my principals.
Thank you very much. Absolutely. So thank you to our audience also for joining us tonight. If you have any questions around this topic or anything related to the state of education in private service, put them in the feed and tag Peter or tag Newborn Care Solutions, and we'll make sure that you get answers. And if you'd like to watch this segment or any of our past Real Talk episodes, along with accessing our other content, pop on over to newborncaresolutions.com and click on the education tab, or you can find all of these Real Talks on our YouTube channel. Just go to the search engine on YouTube and put in Newborn Care Solutions Real Talk, and they will all come up. Thank you for joining us and have a fantastic night.